Okay, so looking at your homework on page 436, let's see what we have going on here. So number 13 was similar to what we did in class. It says x squared plus 25y squared minus 8x plus 100y plus 91 is equal to 0. So we'll get all the x's together, get all the y's together. We get the constant out of the way. Factor out a 1. Take out the 25. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. We'll multiply that by 1 and subtract it. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Multiply that by 25 and then subtract it. It's 100. So let's see what we get. This is just 1 times x minus 4 squared plus 25 times y plus 2 squared. And then negative 16 minus 100 plus 91 is 25. So we'll bring that on the other side. And we can divide everything by 25 here. And we get x minus 4 squared over 25 plus y plus 2 squared over 1 is equal to 1. A squared would be 25, so a would be 5, b would be 1, and c squared would be 25 minus 1. So c would be the square root of 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6. So c would equal 2 root 6. All right, and then from here it's asking to find the lengths of the major, the minor, and the coordinates of the foci. So the center would be 4, negative 2. The length of the major would be 10 units, 2 times 5. The length of the minor would be 2 times 1. And as far as the coordinates of the foci, let's see, well, the bigger number's under the x, so this is going to be horizontal ellipse. So we could say center is going to be 4 plus or minus the c value, comma, negative 2. That's what we got. All right, so that was 13. I asked you to do 16 to 18. And then 27, 29, and 33 to 38. Okay, so maybe I'll do 27 and 29. Those are similar to the one we just did. So let me pick some from 16 to 18, and I'll pick some from that second half. All right, so for 16 through 18, I'm just taking a look at number 17 stands out. 17, it gives us a graph, something like this. And it tells us that the endpoints are 13, 4, and negative 3, 4. That's the endpoints of the major axis. So somewhere in the middle, that would be the center. And then we also have foci. Looks like they're a little bit less. The foci would be 5 plus root 55, comma 4. And this one would be 5 minus root 55, comma 4. And it wants us to write an equation. So the way this works is we need a center first. Our equation is going to look something like this. Because it's horizontal, our a squared is going to go here, b squared is going to go here. We'll have x and y. So the first thing we have to do is figure out the center, and that would be the midpoint of those two endpoints, or between the two foci. Looks like the y value is 4. And the average of negative 3 and 13 If you add them together, you get 10 divided by 2 would be 5. Okay. The a value would be the difference. So this point right here is 5, 4. The distance from here to here is a. So to go from 5 to 13, that's 8. So this would be 64. The distance from here to here would be c. It looks like that's 5 minus root 55. So root 55 would be c. And then to figure out what b is, c squared would be a squared minus b squared, or square root of 55 squared is equal to 64 minus b squared, and b squared would be 9. So that would be our equation. All right, we'll do one more. Maybe we'll do 18 from this section. And for number 18, we do have a vertical ellipse. And it looks like we have a point -2, 4. And this would be -2, -4. And we have foci. The foci would be -2 and then 2 root 3. And then this one would be -2 and then -2 root 3. So because it's vertical, it's going to look like this. The a squared is going to be under y because the bigger number goes underneath whatever axis is the major axis. And let's figure out the center. Center would be the average of -2, 4 and -2, -4. So the center would be -2, and the average of 4, -4 is 0. All right. And so if the center is -2, 0, the distance from here to here, that would be a. A would be 4. And my pen's giving me a hard time here. So if a is 4, a squared is 16. And it looks like the distance from here to here would be c. And that's going to be 2 root 3. So if c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared, c squared would be 2 root 3 times 2 root 3 is 4 root 9, or 12. A squared is 16. So it looks like b squared would be 4. And that's what our equation would be. And let's finish up at the bottom here. I asked you to do 33 to 38. So I'll pick a couple of these. Number 33 is like one we just did here. The last two pictures. I like number 34. That's how old I was 10 years ago. So the major axis is 20 units long. So the length of the major is 20. And it's parallel to the y-axis. So what that tells us is that it is vertical. The minor axis is 6 units long. The center is 4, 2. Okay, so if the center is 4, 2, that's what we get. The length of the major is 20, which means that A would be 10 because it's 2A, and B would be 3. So we get 100, and this would be 9. Let's see what else. Number 35 looks good. Number 35, it says the foci are plus or minus 12, 0. And the endpoints of the minor are 0 plus or minus 5. So that tells us that B would be 5. If we're going up and down 12 here, that means that C would be 12. And because that's on the x value, the foci go left and right, which means so does our ellipse. And if b is 5, b squared is 25. The endpoints of the minor, if we figure out the average of the foci coordinates or the endpoints of the minor, we get 0, 0. So the center would be 0, 0. And then if we know that C is 12 and B is 5, that means C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. So 144 would equal A squared minus 25. So A would be 13. So this is 169. This would be our equation. All right, maybe we'll pick one more. 36 looks pretty easy. 37 is the same thing. 38 is similar to one that we just did. So really all the other ones you should be fine with. I'll just do 36 and then we'll call it a day. For 36, it's saying that the endpoints of the major are negative 11, 5, and 7, 5. So this tells us that we're going left and right for the major, which means our ellipse equation is horizontal. So our a squared is going to be over here. We also know the coordinates of the center. That would be the average. So the average of 5 and 5 is 5. The average of negative 11 and 7 is negative 2. And if we know that the center is negative 2 comma 5, it looks like the distance from negative 2 to negative 11 or negative 2 to 7, that would be 9 units. So A would be 9. Alright, so we're pretty much done, and they only told us one little thing. It does tell us the endpoints of the minor. The endpoints of the minor are negative 2, 9, and negative 2, 1. So we could see, our center is still right. I mean, it has to be negative 2 comma 5. But now we have to figure out what B is. So if the distance of the minor to go from 9 to 1, that's a distance of 8 units. That's 2b because it's the minor, so that means b is 4. B squared would be 16. Alright, so that does it for the homework. Stay tuned for today's lesson.